there, this is Dr. Speights with Math on PowerPoint Tutorials. Our objective today is to translate word sentences to equations and then solve them. Have you ever wondered why some math problems seem as if they were written in some foreign language that you don't understand? Well, that's because it is. Math is a language, and to solve many problems, you will need to translate them from the way they are written in English to their meaning in math. Before we begin, I want to go over the procedures for translating algebraic expressions to equations. Step 1. Read the sentence carefully and identify keyword phrases. Sometimes you may have to read it twice to comprehend it. Next, translate the keyword phrases to form an equation. Solve the equation, interpret the results, and then check the proposed solutions and state your conclusion. There are several key phrases which gives you clues as to which operation is being used in an expression or equation. So let's start with addition keyword phrases. These are phrases that indicate that the addition operation is being used. Words like sum, for example, the sum of A and B can be written as A plus B or B plus A because recall addition is commutative, which means order does not matter. For example, 3 plus 4 equals 7, just the same as 4 plus 3 equals 7. Order does not matter. Another word is plus. A plus B also can be written both ways. Added to, A added to B, more than, A more than B, increased by, A increased by B, total, the total of A and B.
Now let's move on to subtraction keyword phrases. Keyword phrase such as the difference of, for example, the difference of A and B can be translated and written as A minus B. And no, you cannot write it the reverse way, B minus A, because with subtraction, order does matter. So it must be written exactly the way it is stated in the sentence. Minus, for example, A minus B, and again written exactly the way it's written with A first, then B. Decrease by, A decreased by B. Now there are certain words which we call switch words or turnaround words where you're going to have to reverse the order. For example, less than. A less than B, so A will be behind B since A is less than B. Another switch word or turnaround word is subtracted from. A subtracted from B, again, we will reverse the order and it will be written as B minus A. So to help you make sense of why keyword phrases such as less than and subtracted from must be reversed in their order, I'm going to use an example of Hershey's Chocolate Kisses. So suppose I had 5 pieces of Hershey's chocolate candy and I gave 2 of those away. I'm left with 3, so we can state that as 5 take away 2 equals 3. Using the keyword phrases less than and subtracted from, we will state it as the following. 2 subtracted from 5. So again, remember originally I had 5 and 2 was subtracted from that 5. So 2 would be in the back. 5 take away 2 is the way it would be written. The way it's stated is 2 subtracted from 5. The other switch or reverse order word, less than. 2 less than 5. Now 2 is less than or smaller than my original amount of 5. So 2 less than 5 again would be written as 5 take away 2. Multiplication keyword phrases. Product. For example, the product of A and B can be written as A times B or B times A. So recall that multiplication, just like addition, is also commutative, which means order does not matter. Times. A times B. Multiply. A multiplied by B. Twice. Twice B. Remember, when you do something twice, how many times do you do it? That's correct, 2. So twice B would be 2B. Of 1/2 of A is simply 1/2 times A. And we can just simply put them together. We don't need the dot. It's just indicating that they're being multiplied. But yes, we can just join them together. Division keyword phrases. Quotient. The quotient of A and B can be written as either way. The most common way to write division is fraction style. Keep in mind that division is not commutative, which means order does matter. You must write it exactly the way it is stated. So the quotient of A and B, so the first term that's mentioned is A, so that must go in the numerator. The second term, B, then goes in the denominator. Divided by, example, A divided by B, written the same way. The ratio of A to B. Divided into. Divided into is one of those switch or reverse words where we're going to have to reverse the order. So A divided into B would be written as B over A. Equal sign keyword phrases will give you clues as to where you're going to insert an equal sign symbol. So words like is equal to, for an example, 5 times a number is equal to 20, is written as 5 times the number, and then that is where you insert the equal sign, and then 20. Gives. The quotient of 10 and -5 gives -2. Is. 7 minus 2 is 5. Yields. 12 plus 3 yields 15. Amounts to. Twice 8 amounts to 16. Is the same as. The product of a number and 7 is the same as 63. Another key word to make a note of is and when used with operations. For example, the keyword sum, we know that we're adding. So when and is used with sum, it is basically giving you clues as to that is where you're going to insert that addition symbol. So the sum of x and 3, and you're going to insert that addition symbol in place of and. The difference of x and 3, the keyword difference, which means we're going to subtract, and the subtraction symbol will be inserted in place of the words and. Same thing with the product of x and 3. That indicates we're multiplying, so the multiplication symbol again would be between the two terms. The quotient of x and 3, so quotient, we are dividing, and we will insert the division sign again between the two terms. Now the last key phrases I'm going to mention are those that involve inserting a parentheses. So sometimes parentheses are used to separate two different operations. For example, in this phrase, twice the sum of x and 3. Well, in the previous slide, we just covered where you have these connectors are sum and. So the only difference here, we have twice that's also there. So because you have something that occurs twice, remember, you do it 2 times, so you have twice the sum. Because you have 2 different operations of one that's being multiplied and one a sum, we use a parenthesis to separate the two, so it looks like this, twice the sum of x and 3. 3 times the difference of x and 5. So we see again the difference of x and 5 is that's where we're going to have the subtraction of x and 5. But we also have something occurring 3 times. So again, that's a form of multiplication. So since you have 2 different operations, again, we use a parenthesis to separate the 2, which is 3 times the difference of x and 5. So here's our first example. Translate the following sentence into an equation, then solve. 7 more than 3 times a number is equal to 34. So the first thing we need to do is to identify our keyword phrases. So what are they? That's correct. More than, times, and is equal to. Now, we can use direct translation from this point forward to create our equation. So let's begin. 7 more than, remember when you hear more than, what keyword is that? That's correct. Addition. So we're going to place the plus sign there. 3 times a number. Whenever you have a number and a variable being multiplied, and we know it's a variable because it says a number. They didn't tell us what number, so we know that's an unknown, a variable. So we're going to use the variable n. So 3 times n is equal to, yes, you've got it, we're going to insert what? Yes, an equal sign symbol. And then we have 34. So there's our equation. So what's the first step to solving this equation? That's correct. We need to subtract 7 from each side. Let's go ahead and do that. Last step to solving this equation is to do what? Good. Divide by 3. You got it. And n equals, yes, 9. Example 2. Twice a number subtracted from 60 is 20. Find the number. So first, let's identify our keywords. That is correct. Yes, our keywords are twice, subtracted from, and is. So when we do something twice, again, how many times do we do it? 2 times. That's correct. Now notice in this particular sentence that it contains one of those switch words. one of those words where we also call turnaround words, where we're going to have to reverse the order. So twice a number, instead of being in the front, it's going to be in the back because it's going to be subtracted from 60. So remember that example we had with the Hershey's Kisses where 2 was subtracted from 5? So we would solve this similar to that. So twice the number, since it's being subtracted from 60, twice the number would be in the back and 60 would be in the front. So let's go ahead and write that. So twice a number subtracted from 60 is, we can continue with direct translation with the rest of this, 20. So there's our equation. What's the first step to solving this equation? That's correct. Subtract 60 from each side. Let's go ahead and do that. What do I do next? That's correct. Divide by -2, and n equals, that's correct, n equals 20. So our number is 20. Example 3. Translate the following sentence into an equation, then solve. 4 times the sum of a number and 3 is equal to 16. So again, we want to identify our keyword phrases. What are they? Yes, times, sum, connected with and is, yes. So let's go ahead and use direct translation here. 4 times, now because we have times and sum, remember this is the case where we're going to use the parentheses to separate the two operations. So parentheses. Now the sum of a number and 3. And where we see the and, we're going to insert the plus sign. So the sum of a number, so there's our variable, and plus sign 3, close parentheses, is equal to, let's insert our equal sign, and then 16. So here's our equation. Now what's the first step we need to do to solve this equation? That's correct. We need to use the distributive property. So 4 times n, and then 4 times 3 on the left side. Next step to solving this equation is to do what? That's correct. Subtract 12 from each side. Let's go ahead and do that. And what's your last step to solving this? Yes, divide by 4. And n equals, correct, 1. And now our last example. The sum of 6 times a number and 10 is equal to the difference of the number and 15. Find the number. Now this one was a little lengthy, so if it seems a little bit overwhelming or challenging, just simply chunk it. We can break that into 2 parts. Since there's an equal sign, we can translate the left side of the equal sign and then afterwards translate the right side. So let's begin with the left side. What are our key words? Yes, sum, times, and is equal to. Good job. All right, so let's go ahead and begin the translation of this. Now be careful with this particular one because it did not say 6 times the sum of a number and 10. Because if it did, then we would use parentheses, but we're not going to use parentheses on this particular one. So it said the sum. So let's see what we're going to be adding, a sum of 6 times a number along with 10. So the way you would write 6 times a number is 6 times a number. And remember, whenever you have a number and a variable that is being multiplied together, you just simply join them together. So that becomes 6n, and that's going to be added with, and that's where we insert our plus sign because our keyword here is sum. 10 is equal to, that's where we're going to insert our equal sign. So there you have the left side of the equation. Now let's focus our attention on the right side. The right side says the difference of the number and 15. So what's our keyword? Yes, of course, difference. And so that's our indication that we're going to be subtracting. And let's take a look at the two numbers that we're going to be subtracting. So yes, the and indicates, it shows in between the two terms that are going to be subtracted. So let's go ahead and translate that. So the difference of a number, they did not tell us what number it was, so we can use any variable. In this case, we're going to just go ahead and use n to stay consistent. So a number, and this is where we're going to insert our subtraction symbol because the key word there is difference, and 15. And so that is the right side of our equation. So here's our complete equation. The sum of 6 times a number and 10 is equal to the difference of the number and 15. Okay, so now that we have our equation, which we translated from our sentence, the sum of 6 times a number and 10 is equal to the difference of a number and 15. Find the number. So let's proceed with finding a number. Now the first thing we need to do to solve this equation is to combine like terms. So notice that we have variables and integers on both sides of the equation. So we need to get our variables together on one side and our integers on the other. So I can do this by, one, subtracting 10 from each side, and then secondly by subtracting n from each side. By doing so, I will then be able to combine my like terms. So 6n, take away 1n, yes, is 5n. And on the right side, notice the signs are the same. So remember, when the signs are the same, keep the sign and add the numbers. So what we have now is 5n equals negative 25. So what's my next step to solve this equation? Yes, I've got to divide by 5. And n, our number is, yes, negative 5. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Thank you for watching Math on PowerPoint tutorials. If you liked this video and found it to be helpful in any way, please like it and subscribe to my channel.